To jest projekt Cyfrowa Kultura Obywatelska. Dziś porozmawiamy online z profesorem Stefanem Missinne z Wiednia, odkrywcą nieznanego globu Leonarda da Vinci z najstarszym przedstawieniem Ameryki, oraz z doktorem Geertem Verhoevenem, twórcą mapy pochodzącej z tego globu. Zapraszam.
In the history of cartography, it is the oldest globe to show the New World. It's a miracle that it has survived for more than 500 years.
Stefan, swoje odkrycie opisujesz w książce, ale czy możesz tutaj powiedzieć, jak zaczęła się ta cała historia i jak trafiłeś na glob, który później okazał się globem Leonardo da Vinci?
I found the globe at a map and globe fair at the Royal Geographical Society in London. And the coincidence was that a dealer ran behind me and then said, I think I have something for you. It's an egg from the 19th century. It's scrimshaw. And it's funny because America is not on it. And so I said, it's an egg from the 19th century, scrimshaw, 19th century, ostrich egg. All clocks started to ring. And then I observed the object, took a, what is it called, an amplifier to look at it. To increase, and it took 5 minutes to purchase. It's very hard to grasp any object from the 19th century without having America on it.
Do tej pory uważano, że to Lenox glob przechowywany w nowojorskiej Public Library jest najstarszym przedstawieniem Ameryki. Twoje odkrycie zmieniło ten stan rzeczy.
Copper metal drop on the ostrich egg globe surface, on the Da Vinci globe. The spot where that was or is on the Lenox globe does not have that. It came from there. In that copper, in the chemicals, arsen was discovered. And interestingly, the Lenox globe does not have a patina. There's nobody ever who wrote down, other than Leonardo in Renaissance times, that you have to add arsene to copper in order to prevent it to receive a patina. The producing process was first the egg halves were engraved. Once these were finished, they were used to cast the Lenox globe parts. Then the ostrich egg shells were conjoined, and where they are conjoined, it's somewhat blurred.
When you have the photograph of the egg and the Lenox globe, you will see that the Lenox globe has a specific undulation on the northern half, which is exactly the one you also see in the egg. And of course, if they would make a cast of something that is nicely round, it would not have this undulation. So it really follows nicely the topography of the egg.
Jakie elementy tego globu wskazują, że wykonał go sam Leonardo da Vinci?
There are several. Physical evidence, you have pictorial evidence, chemical evidence, orthographic, mathematical, calligraphic, bibliographic, cosmographic, and narrative. So rather significant point is a drowning sailor. Leonardo was aware of the dangers of the sea. He invented the double hull of the boat, of the ships, which was only applied in practice in the 19th century, but he invented that. So he was very much aware, and he draws a drowning sailor, interestingly, off the coast of China. It refers to the tragedy of Corte Real. Corte Real was a tragedy which happened right on the turn of the century of 1500, and a Portuguese tragedy. So that is reflected in that.
Leonardo da Vinci nie używał litery Y, Y. Czy brakuje jej także w toponimach umieszczonych na globie?
There are about 73 names, toponyms. Never ever does he use or apply the Y on the globe.
Czy wiadomo, czym mógł inspirować się Leonardo tworząc swój glob?
Leonardo refers to his globe, which has his friend Giovanni Benci in the year 1504. This is in the Codex Atlanticus, where he says, Il mio mappamondo, che è Giovanni Benci. This was initially translated in the 19th century by Richter in My World Map, which has Giovanni Benci, but in Italian, that means not my world map, but my globe, my world globe. Another important issue is Leonardo was left-handed. The globe was made by a left-handed person.
Jak wiadomo, strusie jaja były grawerowane, malowane, oprawiane złotem już od starożytności. Czy stworzenie ziemskiego globu z dwóch połówek strusiego jaja to kolejny przejaw geniuszu Leonarda?
The fact that he chose eggs to make a globe, nobody else has ever done this before. The iconographic meaning of egg means birth, means life. It's the fourth continent which had just been discovered. And the eggs came from Pavia, from the Struzzeria in Pavia, the garden of the Viscounts. So a place where Leonardo had been many times. The circumstantial evidence is quite significant because there was no other place in Europe at the time where you could go and try to find ostrich eggs.
Czy przyjaźń Leonarda z Amerigo Vespucci, który jako pierwszy opłynął wybrzeża Brazylii i od którego imienia pochodzi nazwa Ameryka, mogła wpłynąć na sposób, w jaki Leonardo wykonał swój glob?
Florence at the time was the center of cartographic knowledge. Leonardo had contact with Vespucci. In one of his statements, he refers to Vespucci, El Vespuccio, wants to give him a book on geometry. He said, these are not islands, this is a continent. And he named it Mundus Novus. So, Mundus Novus, those words are engraved on the ostrich egg globe. In addition, there are two other words, Terra Sancta Crucis, the land of the Holy Cross, and Terra de Brasil.
Te same wyrażenia Mundus Novus, Terra Sancta Crucis, Terra de Brasil pojawiają się na globusie jagiellońskim przechowywanym w Krakowie. Czy istnieje jakiś związek pomiędzy globusem jagiellońskim a globem Leonarda?
The person who made that not only copied the parts of the Lennox globe, he added a few names, but he eliminated others. But he also copied the armillary sphere in which the Lennox was kept.
Skąd pomysł na stworzenie dwuwymiarowej mapy z trójwymiarowego globu Leonarda?
This 3-dimension into 2-dimension would potentially help to find out scale, and is that then possible to define, based on the scale of the 3-dimensional model, the size of the world that the person had in mind when he was making it.
We thought, okay, we can measure then the exact diameter of this globe, compute its volume. Maybe we see some other geometrical patterns that we would not see before, because it's very important to remember that when a surface has texture, so it has color, it sometimes masks also the geometry of the surface. And one of the ideas was also, if you take the color away from this egg globe, maybe we see some of the parallels or the meridians, which we did not always see on the globe. So we thought maybe we will see them also in the 3D model, because we can simply remove all the color. What we wanted to see in the 3D model is we wanted to make sure that we would see the smallest feature in the globe, which are these lines Leonardo used to engrave all the waves in the sea. And we thought more or less this was 1/10 of a millimeter, and indeed afterwards, after I made this whole globe, we could measure it, and it was indeed about 1/10 of a millimeter. So this was the idea.
Czy można ustalić skalę, jakiej użył Leonardo?
Luckily, Leonardo writes about a Portolan chart that he used, and in that Portolan chart, he refers to the distance from Gibraltar to the Sea of Azov being 3,500 miles. Now, when he writes 3,500 miles, the real distance is 4,500 kilometers, then you can find out that the mile he was referring to 1,280 meters. And you arrive by 6,972 or 75 miles, which is 0.35% of the 7,000 miles Leonardo wrote down, only being the only person writing down that not only once, but twice.
Do trójwymiarowej digitalizacji globu Leonarda użyliście modelowania na podstawie zdjęć, w skrócie IBM. Dlaczego zdecydowaliście się na tą metodę?
So that's why we then decided also for image-based modeling. So image-based modeling is a technique which uses photographs to create three-dimensional information from these photographs. These drawings are about 1/10 of a millimeter, so 0.1 millimeter, which means that I would need to have a spatial resolution in my images of half or a third of that. So knowing this, I knew that we would need to take a kind of macro photograph setup, and also the illumination would be very important because this globe is from X, which means there's a lot of direct light that is reflected, which we call specular reflection.
Geert, wielokrotnie mówiłeś, że pobieranie zdjęć, czyli danych do stworzenia globu trójwymiarowego, było największym wyzwaniem tego projektu. Możesz powiedzieć dlaczego?
So this artifact was put in my studio with all the soft boxes around. And once you have then the camera set up with this lens, 80 centimeters from the globe, you know that in your image you will see details of 50 micron. When you come so close to an object, the depth of field becomes very small, which means that there is only a very small portion which is sharp and which you can accurately reconstruct or construct in 3D. And there's always a portion before and after the point of focus. And what a lot of people do when they make 3D models, when they photograph, let's say that this is the globe, they focus on the first part of the globe. So there is a bit of depth of field before, which is completely lost, and a bit of depth of field here, but not enough to cover the whole globe. So I put the focus 3 meters after the first part of the globe, so that the first part of the depth of field would cover the first part of the globe, and the remaining part, the centimeters, yeah, the latter part of the globe. So that in the end we ended up with a few hundreds of images which were then put into software. That time it was Agisoft Photoscan to compute everything. Computed then from these images the 3D model, so the exact surface, so to say. And then using that surface, we also used this to unwrap this whole globe and to then make the map from this globe.
Cyfrowy glob jest już gotowy. Czy możesz powiedzieć, jakie były następne kroki do rozłożenia kuli na mapę?
So first I take this 3D surface into a special software, which was called Geomagic Wrap. By this I make the whole surface error-free, and I also made 2 very small holes on the poles so that I could easily open this globe afterwards digitally. When you do image-based modeling, there is no scale and there is no orientation. The scale was already set when making the 3D model, but the orientation also. I then rotated the globe until the equator would be perfectly horizontal. And then the perfectly oriented globe that was cleaned of all errors was exported and was brought into a software which is called UV Mapper. And UV Mapper allows you to unwrap a 3D surface, any 3D model, onto a 2D plane. One of the techniques that I used is simply a circular unwrapping. So you assume the globe to be a circle, and then it unwraps it according to a specific mathematical principle. By doing this, we could digitally unwrap this globe.
Co nowego odkryliście na globie Leonarda dzięki zastosowanym metodom cyfrowym?
3 words: Anfurio in. And this had been overseen. Nobody had noticed. It is of course also on the Lennox globe. The beginning of the phrase and the end of the phrase became visible on the Da Vinci globe. That helped. Other aspects which were highly significant. Normally, all globes in the world have meridians and parallels. This globe of Leonardo da Vinci does not have these longitudinal, and so no parallels and no meridians, with the exception of one part at the southern part of Latin America, where they became visible through this photography. And the fact that they became visible, I could find out and confirm what type of map he had used for the old world. The horizontal divisions were each 5 degrees, which is highly detailed, and the vertical divisions were 10 degrees, referred to a map he must have used made by Ptolemy. So we know that he had in his library a atlas, Ptolemy Atlas from 1482.
Jeśli zaś chodzi o inspirację dla stworzenia nowego świata, dzięki zastosowanym metodom cyfrowym odkryliście, w jaki sposób Leonardo się do tego przygotował.
Of course, the New World is a bit more difficult, but nevertheless, we found a preparatory drawing by Leonardo da Vinci at the British Library, which had been previously erroneously identified as being the surface of the moon. We found out it shows the coastline of Brazil at the time of 1503, east and the west coast of Africa at the time of 1503. So this was the first ever evidence, written evidence, in this case pictorial evidence, that Leonardo not only knew about the discovery of America, but he drew it due to the fact, to this unfolding of the Da Vinci Globe, that it was possible to find it. So this preparatory drawing at the British Library, thought to be the moon, is no longer the moon. It is a drawing made by Leonardo da Vinci from 1503 of the first and initially discovered coastline of Brazil with other parts of the world.
Zastosowanie technik cyfrowych przyniosło nie tylko wiele odkryć, ale umożliwiło również cyfrową ochronę tego zabytku, a także ułatwienie jego studiowania.
Of course, you can see a lot of detail on this globe, but constantly staring so close at it makes you also very tired, and it's extremely fragile. It's 130 grams. It's almost dangerous to study it. So doing it on a computer where you can be much more relaxed is, of course, much more convenient. You might not always see more, but it's more convenient and safer for the artifact.
Co przyniosło odkrycie globu Leonarda da Vinci w kontekście odkryć geograficznych?
The discovery of the Da Vinci Globe opens a new door into the art history on how Leonardo was influenced or potentially influenced, or his paintings were influenced by the discovery of the New World. There is a painting by Leonardo called the Madonna with a Spindle. When I looked at that painting, I did not see a spindle. Everybody says this painting is the painting of a spindle, and I said, it is not a spindle, it's a Jacob's staff. It's a Jacob's staff, a staff used to calculate distances and to know your position on the sea. That is what Christ is holding, and not a spindle. In the Salvator Mundi, there is a small globe. It's a transparent glass. On that celestial object, there are 3 stars, and these 3 stars are the 3 stars mentioned in a letter by Amerigo Vespucci. Leonardo uses the knowledge from Vespucci, which was published with a drawing of those stars, and he puts it in the painting. This offers a date after which that painting must have been made. So, in other words, Leonardo, he not only made a globe, but he used it also in his painting. A topic which has never been studied is so important that it opens a new door in the history of art. It offers an opportunity to review all the paintings which were made by him past 1492 with potential aspects not seen before with regard to what are the inputs and how he was influenced as an artist by this new discovery.
Szczegółowe wyniki badań nad globem Leonarda znajdują się w książce profesora Stefana Missinne. Ja zaś zapraszam Was do wykonywania zadań znajdujących się w opisie odcinka, a także do udziału w webinariach na stronie cyfrowakulturaobywatelska.org, gdzie możecie nauczyć się modelowania na podstawie zdjęć od podstaw.